Hello. The topic of the discussion today is the market research results of the Tata Nano. So before we begin with the detailed analysis, let us first refresh our information about the product. The Tata Nano was the world's cheapest car launched in the year 2009 by Tata Motors. When it was launched, the price of the product was US dollars 2000. The Tata Nano came with an petrol engine of 660cc and was designed for mainly two reasons: to provide a solution for traffic and congestion on Indian roads, and to provide a low price car option to the consumers who don't own a car due to various reasons such as price, quality, maintenance, and fuel costs. The Tata Nano came with a promise of a fuel efficiency of 23 kilometers per liter of petrol and a price tag of Indian rupees 140,000. Let us understand the market performance and the recent developments of Tata Nano. Since its launch, the Nano has experienced high levels of fluctuations in its sales figures. The recent launch of the facelift model of the Tata Nano called Nano 2012 has seen decent sales figures. However, since its launch in March 2009, Tata Motors had sold only 175,000 units by March 2012, whereas the plant capacity itself is 250,000 units. Now Tata Motors is gearing up for the launch of its three new variants: the 800cc petrol, diesel, and CNG cars. The launch will be targeting the closest competitor, Maruti Suzuki Alto 800, which has taken away a major chunk of the Tata Nano sales. Though the Alto is priced higher, the consumers are shifting to Alto from Nano. After having updated you with the recent information about the Tata Nano, let us discuss the management question of the research project. It goes like so. With Nano preparing for its launch in different segment, what should be the strategy to improve upon the past sales numbers? After having understood the management question for this research, let us understand the market research question for this study. What are the different profiles of the Tata Nano buyers, and what are their reasons and attitude towards buying a car in this segment?
In this part, we are going to talk about the broad approach we had developed towards our topic. We try to cover the two steps of the marketing research process, a very important model taught to us in the first class. The second step pertains to the research approach developed, whereas the third step covers the research design developed. Under the research approach process, we try to identify the factors that influence the buyer's decision to buy our product. Further, we try to identify the best process to reach the people who could provide us with the information we need for our product. Under the research design method, comprising of exploratory and conclusive methods, we used the exploratory design method as our purpose was to identify the salient behavior and attitude patterns of the customers. Further, exploratory research process has two parts, qualitative and quantitative. We mainly relied on the qualitative research procedure. Lastly, under the qualitative design procedure, we tried to conduct both the group and depth interviews for our case. However, due to the limitations of the distance, our customers were mainly in India, our contacts were mainly in India. It became almost impossible for us to proceed further with this step. For our primary research, we relied mainly on the questionnaire. Our questionnaire had 5 parts to it, which we wanted to identify. First, the profile of the buyer or the users. Second, the reasons for which they buy the product, which covers subjects like the price, second car, avoidance of traffic and parking problems, etc. Third was the mode of the finance. Fourth was the purpose for which they buy the product, which covers subjects like going to grocery, traveling to workplace, etc. And fifth, opinions about the product and service. We distributed the questionnaire in the Facebook page of Tata Nano, which is very active, and we got 18 respondents. We used the guidance sheet given to us by the professor while making the questionnaire in an effort to make it as error-free as possible. Lastly, for collecting the secondary data, we relied mainly on the external mode under which we published the datas where Lastly, for collecting the secondary data, we relied mainly on the external mode under which the published data were our main source of information.
As discussed earlier, our survey was a source of our primary data, and we got a total of 18 respondents. As you can see, age was one of the first aspects we focused on classifying our respondents. It can be seen that 44% of the respondents were above the age of 35 years, and closely followed by those between 25 and 35 years. Thus, we concluded that the buyers above 25 years were attracted by the Nano. The next aspect we focused on was whether a Tata Nano is popular among male buyers or female. The limitation of this was that we did not have the choice to select our sample, and we had to accept as it came through. We found that a majority of male respondents were in the age of group 25 to 35. Thus we concluded that the Nano is popular among the men aged above the age of 25 years. There was a slight disproportionality in the number of male and female respondents, but it certainly should be explored whether the Tata Nano is more used by men, who form the major chunk of the workforce in India. Though this does not accurately represent the target market for the Tata Nano, it was necessary to understand the general profiles of the respondents. The professional activities or the phase of an individual in his career determines the buying habit in terms of price, mode of financing, and reasons. Like almost everywhere in India as well, the working people are classified as employee or a businessman or self-employed. We had to be very careful while asking direct questions about income, as people are quite reluctant to give such details in random surveys. Hence, we focused on some key questions which would help us to make a picture of our respondents. So, we concluded that a majority of the buyers belong to the employee and business class, whereas the car is not that popular among students. Also, we found that housewives are also one of the important users of Tata Nano. The common modes of financing are usually personal funds and car loans. As mentioned earlier, questions like these helped us construct a profile of the respondent, as we decided to refrain from asking direct questions about their financial status. As observed from the result, a majority of the respondents financed their purchases by personal funds, whereas a very few used car loans. Considering the price of Tata Nano, which was roughly US dollars 2,600, it was not practical to borrow if an individual is seeking tax deductions in terms of monthly installments of the loan. The effective tax deduction out of the monthly installment was very minimal in terms of financial savings. Thus, we concluded that the people who borrowed to buy the Tata Nano were in very early stages of their career or either in the low to medium pay bracket. The major reasons to buy the car helped us understand the spending habits of the respondents. We understood the reason in terms of whether a small car was their need or an additional option. We found that a large percentage chose Tata Nano because it was cheap and perfect second car. The other reasons the respondents filled in the text section were the Tata Motors brand and service network. Thus, we understood that the consumers can have other reasons like good brand value and excellent service network even while choosing the cheapest car available in the world. We understood how difficult it is to position your product as the cheapest, and the consumers still expect the added value in terms of brand presence and extra services. The main question to understand the general using habits and attitudes of the users towards the car was the purpose of use. We found that a majority of the respondents used it for general household shopping and closely followed by those who used it for nearby travels. We found that out of 17% housewives, all had selected shopping as their main uses. This question was a multiple answer question, so we had many options with high percentage respondents. But in the other section, we did not find anyone who used Tata Nano for long distance travels. While talking about the frequency of use, we concluded that Tata Nano is a practical buy for most of the respondents, and we can see from the results that the conclusion holds good for almost all the respondents. Most of the respondents used the car at least a couple of times a week. Some also used it daily, and they had selected to go to work or college option from the previous question. They belonged to the working population, and most of them were aged between 25 and 35 years. Thus, this aspect told us about the consumer's need for a small car. Thus, we concluded that this Nano is the option for commuting in the traffic and in a fuel efficient way. At this point, we arrived at the perception based questions. We questioned the respondents about the aspects like driving comfort, performance, fuel efficiency, post sale service, and value for money, and asked them to rate the Nano as bad, fair, good, and excellent. We found that there were few dissatisfied customers. Actually, none of them were extremely dissatisfied. So we checked the secondary sources and found that many Nano users were not satisfied with the Nano in terms of its safety, post-sale service, and performance. So we concluded that Nano should improve on these aspects and provide a better value for money. The next section also allowed us to understand the respondents' comments and suggestions for improvement in the car. This is a very difficult section for the respondents to fill. Actually, hardly 7 respondents out of 18 managed to fill this. Some of the responses were like gasoline engine makes noise comparable to a diesel engine. Recent incidences with Nano catching fire are alarming. Some people also remarked that the Nano is a very good car for the price it comes at. Some people complained about the noise and some minor technical breakdowns, while some regarded Nano as a better option for students because of its fuel efficiency. However, they were a little concerned about its safety.
From our primary data and our secondary data, we collected that the Nano, the cheapest car ever, is seen by many marketers as a competitor for other brands due to its price and its target market. More than 80% of the users or owners were 25 years old and up and belonged to the productive social class due to the working or self employed status most of them answered our survey with nearly equal men users as women. What came as a surprise that the Nano is used for shopping purposes as well. Due to its size, it can avoid traffic, it can be parked easily, and it's better shelter than a motorcycle to transport any luggage. After our research about Tata Nano, and within the limitations of time and the respondents, we were able to provide several recommendations. First is to focus more on the needs of the market because the car in itself came to answer the need of a certain social class that wanted a car with these specifications. In other words, to develop the car and give the user and the potential consumer what he expects from the car. Second, the Nano as it is it's the first of its kind to enter the Indian market and the world. So after sales services, follow-ups and support are needed, whether to check on performance or number of breakdowns, Any phone call on behalf of the company would help it keep the consumer loyal and gain more information about the market. Third, the Indian market is large but isn't covered fully. A market as large as the Indians, consumers definitely can provide the company with more sales if the marketing campaigns are dealt with effectively. Moreover, the car speaks for itself. Maybe not the best look, but with the price, specifications, and purpose of use, form the best combination for people looking for something just like the smart from Mercedes or a Fiat 500 with a cheaper price. Fourth, India as one of the BRICS has a lot of potential to grow. Multinationals are targeting it due to a lot of factors that are contributing to the expansion of India in the world. Why not push the Tata Nano into its surrounding cities in China, for example, as the cheapest car ever made? Considering the fact that in Asia, the rate of people with middle and low income is pretty high, it enables them to be oriented more towards the Nano. In addition, recently there has been rumors of the expansion of the Nano to Europe, in specific France. A lot of people have doubt in this, but we think that targeting the closest, bigger, and more promising markets is essential, than moving away to Europe, which may hold a lot of potential as well. Nevertheless, Nano Europe will be different from Nano India because it changes the most essential part of the vehicle, and it's its price. In conclusion, our team really believes that the Nano has been a success till now and has a lot of potential to uncover in the years to come, especially that manufacturers are moving to smaller, more fuel efficient, and recently hybrid editions. Would the Nano appear in a hybrid edition later on? This is a question that we definitely look forward to its answer.
As we have discussed the limitations of the study in some of the previous sections and also in detail in the report, I'll mention only some of the few points about the limitations of the study. The geographical separation prevented us from doing focus group discussions and personal interviews. Hence, our primary data was limited only to the survey results. We could manage only 18 respondents with no choice of sample selection for better evenness in the study. The medium to post the survey link was only the Facebook page and forums. Thus we could get the responses of the people who only had a Facebook profile and had liked the Tata Nano page. Some of the responses were even half-hearted and the respondents avoided filling the text boxes, especially for the last question, which requested some recommendations from the consumers. We also tried to spread the survey over a geographical area by posting it on Tata Nano, Sri Lanka, and Nepal pages, but we could not get any response from those pages. Thus, our survey research was limited to India only. Thank you.